The council chamber floated in the void between stars. 47 species gathered inside the massive station, their representatives sitting in rings that stretched toward the domed ceiling. Captain stood at the center platform, his blue uniform crisp and clean. Beside him, Ambassador held a data tablet with both hands. The counselor raised 3 of his 6 arms. His voice boomed through the translators. The answer is no. Humanity may not join as full members. Had expected this. 200 years of waiting, of proving themselves, of following every rule. It still hurt to hear the words spoken so casually. May I ask why? Kept his voice calm and professional. The representative spoke next. Its crystalline body pulsed with cold blue light. Your species lacks the necessary development. You have one home world and one colony. You contribute little to galactic trade, perhaps in another 1,000 years. His hand tightened on the tablet, noticed but said nothing. A delegate chittered from its perch. The translation came through flat and emotionless. Humans are useful workers, good with their hands, willing to do jobs others find boring. Why change what works? Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter exactly, but dismissive. The kind of laughter adults give to children who ask silly questions. Looked around the chamber. He saw the truth in their faces, in their body language, in the way they barely paid attention. Humanity was not an equal here. Humanity was labor. Humanity was servants who didn't know their place. I see, said quietly. Then I deliver humanity's final message to this council. That got their attention. The chamber grew quiet. If we cannot be partners, we will not be servants. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic affairs. Every human in council space will return to Earth within 6 months. All contracts are void. All agreements ended. We wish you well. The counselor laughed, a deep rumbling sound. You think we will miss you? Earth's economy is nothing, a fraction of a %. Go home, little ones. Come back when you are ready to accept reality. Stepped forward before could stop her. You will miss us more than you know, but you will learn that lesson on your own. She turned and walked toward the exit, followed. Behind them, the council chamber filled with amused conversations. The humans were throwing a tantrum. They would be back in a few months, begging for their jobs back. On the shuttle back to the human station, stared out the window. We did the right thing, didn't we? Thought about the millions of humans scattered across the galaxy. Workers, engineers, nurses, pilots, mechanics. People who took jobs no one else wanted because they needed the money or believed in the dream of galactic unity. Yes, he said, we did. The evacuation began the next day. At Station Gamma 7, Minyu coordinated the withdrawal of 3,000 human freight workers. The alien station master seemed annoyed by the inconvenience. Where will you go? The station master asked. Home, Minyu said simply. You will regret this. There are no jobs on Earth for freight handlers who work in space. Minyu smiled. We will figure something out, we always do. Across the galaxy, the same scene repeated. Shut down maintenance operations on a research station. The scientists barely noticed. Their perfect machines ran themselves, or so they thought. On a medical ship, human nurses packed their belongings. The head physician complained about the inconvenience, but assured everyone that replacements would arrive soon. At the border stations between hostile territories, human peacekeepers powered down the neutral zones. Other species had refused those postings for decades. Too dangerous, too boring, too far from civilization. 6 months passed quickly. The last human transport departed from Council space on schedule. Behind them, they left empty stations, abandoned repair facilities, and unmanned outposts. On Earth, President addressed the returning workers. You have done nothing wrong. You gave them 200 years of honest work and honest friendship. They chose to see you as less than equals, so we come home. We build our own future. The crowd cheered but saw the worry in their eyes. What now? What future did humanity have without the galaxy? In the council chambers, the counselor reviewed reports. Human departure had caused minor disruptions. Nothing serious. Freight schedules were delayed by a few weeks while new workers learned the routes. Some maintenance took longer than expected. A handful of border skirmishes broke out where peacekeepers had left. Manageable, the counselor declared. We were right to refuse them. They were not ready for true membership. The other counselors agreed. The human tantrum had been exactly that, a tantrum. Life would continue as before. They were wrong. In deep space, something stirred. In the dark places between stars, in the regions humans had been patrolling without anyone knowing, ancient predators began to move. The barriers were gone. The irritants that had kept them at bay for 2 centuries had vanished. The devourers were patient. They could wait a little longer while their prey grew comfortable again. But not too much longer. Minyu stared at his data screen in disbelief. He had been managing the shutdown of the last human freight hub in Council space. The job was almost done. Just a few more days and he could go home to Earth. But the message on his screen made him pause. 15 major shipping routes were now running 3 weeks behind schedule. 22 smaller routes had stopped completely. The delays were getting worse, not better. Minyu had spent 12 years coordinating deep space freight. He knew these routes better than he knew his own home. The job was tedious and exhausting. Most species considered it beneath them, but humans did it because someone had to. He pulled up the Galactic Trade Network. The beautiful, complex web of supply lines that connected 47 civilizations looked wrong. Routes that should glow green with on-time deliveries were turning yellow and red. Warning symbols appeared everywhere. They think they can run this without us, Minyu muttered to himself. Let them try. He shut down his terminal and headed for the transport home. Across the galaxy, received her 20th emergency call that week. She stood in her small apartment on Earth, having returned from Council space 2 months ago. The voice on the other end belonged to a station master, the same one who had dismissed her maintenance concerns before. The life support is failing, the station master said, its translated voice carrying an emotion had never heard from before. Fear. I am sorry, said politely. I no longer work in Council space. Perhaps contact your own engineers. We tried. They do not understand your repair logs. The systems have too many modifications, custom patches, improvised solutions. It makes no logical sense. Almost laughed. During her 8 years maintaining that station, she had filed hundreds of reports. The designed brilliant systems, but they were rigid. When something unexpected happened, their machines could not adapt, so humans adapted for them. Every repair she made worked around problems the original designers never imagined. Every patch solved issues that appeared only after years of actual use. The maintenance logs looked chaotic because reality was chaotic. You need someone who thinks like a human, explained. Someone who can improvise. All humans have left. Yes, we have. Ended the call. She felt bad for the people on that station, but this was not her problem anymore. Similar calls flooded Earth every day. Medical stations losing staff. Communication relays going dark. Border outposts requesting help. Earth's government sent the same answer to everyone. We are no longer available for these services. Ambassador compiled reports from across Council space. The pattern was clear and getting worse. Medical care was collapsing. 70% of nurses in Council space had been human. Other species could become doctors and surgeons. Those were prestigious jobs. But nursing? Too much daily contact with the sick. Too much emotional labor. Humans had filled that role without complaint. Now hospitals were overwhelmed. Patients waited weeks for basic care. Infrastructure was crumbling. Power plants, water systems, waste management, unglamorous work that humans had maintained across hundreds of worlds. The facilities still existed, but no one knew how to fix them when they broke. Exploration had stopped completely. Humans took the dangerous scouting missions into unknown space. They volunteered for surveys of hostile planets and mapping of unstable regions. The jobs paid well because the risk of death was high. Other species called it foolish bravery. Humans called it necessary work. Communication networks were failing across the galaxy. Human technicians had staffed the relay stations in deep space, often alone for months at a time. The isolation drove most species mad. Humans adapted to it. Presented her findings to President. The Council is starting to panic. They sent 3 diplomatic messages this week asking for negotiations. What did they offer? Asked. Nothing concrete. Vague promises of reconsidering our membership status. Requests for temporary contracts to help with the crisis. Shook her head. They still do not understand. They think this is about wanting membership. They do not see that we are done being used. Working in the diplomatic corps, monitored council broadcasts. The news from galactic civilization grew worse each day. The empire was fracturing. 3 regional governors had declared independence, fighting over trade routes and resources that were no longer flowing properly. The collective tried to automate everything humans had been doing. They built sophisticated artificial intelligence to manage the complex systems. The AI failed within weeks. It could not handle unpredictable variables. It could not improvise. The economy was in free fall. Their entire industrial base depended on supply chains that no longer functioned. Smaller species suffered most. They depended on the Council's infrastructure for everything: medicine, food, communications. That infrastructure was maintained by humans they never thought about. 1 year after human departure, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The chamber was only half full. Many species could not send representatives because their ships could not make the journey. The trade routes were too unreliable. The counselor, looking exhausted, made a proposal. We should hire mercenaries and contractors to replace human workers, pay whatever rates necessary. A delegate responded with harsh facts. We tried. No mercenaries will take long-term maintenance contracts in deep space. The working conditions are too poor. The pay would need to be 50 times what we paid humans. We cannot afford that across thousands of facilities. Then we redistribute the work among our own populations, suggested a counselor. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone knew their own people would refuse. These jobs were beneath civilized species. That was why humans had done them. The representative made a mathematical argument. We must acknowledge that humans provided unique value. Their cognitive flexibility allowed them to interface between incompatible systems. We need them. Then we apologize, the counselor said. We invite them back with better terms. The motion passed unanimously. But as they drafted their message to Earth, warning lights began flashing throughout the council station. Long-range sensors detected something entering known space from the dark regions beyond. Something massive, something hungry. The apology would have to wait. 2 years had passed since humanity left council space, sat in his office on Earth, monitoring the galactic news feeds. What he saw made him sad and angry at the same time. The Empire no longer existed as one nation. 5 separate factions now fought over its territory. Their mighty fleets battled each other over trade stations and resource deposits. Without steady supplies of food and medicine, populations were starving. Military governors hoarded what little remained. The collective was in better shape but still struggling. Their perfect logic could not solve illogical problems. Watched a news report about a city where the water purification system had failed. The automated repair drones could not fix it. The system needed someone to think creatively, to try solutions that had not been programmed. Hundreds of thousands were evacuating the city. They would become refugees in a civilization that had never had refugees before. Smaller species suffered worst of all. The crystalline habitats were going dark as power systems failed. The hive worlds faced starvation as the agricultural supply network collapsed. The ocean dwellers watched their water quality deteriorate without the environmental maintenance humans had quietly performed for decades. Dr. Sara published her research 3 months ago. As a studying galactic civilizations, she had spent a year analyzing what went wrong. Her conclusion was simple and devastating. Humans were the universal adapters. Every species built technology according to their own logic. Systems were hierarchical, commands flowed from top to bottom. Systems were mathematical, everything followed precise calculations. Systems were biological, grown rather than built. Systems were based on crystalline harmonics. These different technologies could not talk to each other. A ship could not interface with a station. A medical device could not connect to power grids. But humans made them work together. With their flexible thinking, humans learned every system. They found workarounds. They created patches and bridges and improvised solutions. A human engineer could fix an equipment in the same day because humans did not think rigidly. Galactic civilization was not one unified network. It was 47 separate networks held together by human ingenuity. When humans left, those networks fell apart. Sara's paper spread across Earth quickly. It explained so much. It also made people angry. The galaxy had used them, had taken their adaptability for granted, had seen them as simple laborers when they were actually the foundation holding everything together. Security Chief reported something even more concerning. Border wars were breaking out across Council space. For 200 years, humans had staffed the neutral peacekeeping stations between hostile species. Everyone knew humans were not perfect, but they had one quality others lacked: genuine belief in fairness and justice. Humans actually cared about doing the right thing, even when it was not profitable. Other species found this childish and naive, but they also trusted it. Aena could not agree on who should patrol their border. Neither trusted the other, but both trusted a human peacekeeper to be impartial. Now those stations were empty. Old grudges flared into violence. Species that had maintained cold peace for generations suddenly attacked each other. Without neutral arbiters, every dispute became an excuse for war. The Galactic Council tried emergency meetings to address the crisis, but the meetings themselves were failing. Council members could barely communicate. The translation networks that made multi-species conversations possible relied on relay stations humans had maintained. President reviewed reports in her office. The Council had sent 7 requests for negotiations. Each one offered better terms than the last: full membership, trade benefits, formal apologies. "What do you think?" she asked, who stood nearby. "They are desperate," said, "but they still do not truly understand. They think this is about politics, about hurt feelings. They do not see that we were the ones keeping their entire civilization running." General Han entered the office holding a secure data tablet. "We have a bigger problem." He activated a hologram. It showed deep space scans from the dark regions beyond Council territory. Massive biosignatures were moving toward inhabited space. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. "What are they?" asked. "We do not know exactly," Han said. "But old human scout records mention something called devourers, species from dark space. They consume entire planets for resources. Every few thousand years, they sweep through this region of the galaxy." "Why have they not attacked before now?" Scientist entered the room. She had been studying the old scout reports for weeks, because humans kept them away without knowing it. She brought up a map of Council space with human patrol routes highlighted. For 200 years, human scouts explored the dangerous regions. We mapped unstable nebulas, charted asteroid fields, surveyed dead systems. Everyone thought we did this to prove ourselves worthy of council membership. We did, said quietly. Yes, but there was an unintended consequence. Our scout ships constantly moved through areas the Devourers use as feeding grounds. We disrupted their patterns, pushed them away from council space. Not intentionally, we did not even know they existed, but our presence kept them at a distance. The room went silent as everyone understood. When we left, said, the barriers disappeared, finished. We analyzed the timeline. The Devourers started moving toward council space 3 months after the last human scout departed. They have been traveling for almost 2 years. They will reach inhabited systems soon. Pulled up intelligence estimates. The council's military is in shambles. Their fleets cannot coordinate effectively. Most of their best tactical officers were human. How many people will die? Asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. Billions, maybe tens of billions. The council sent another message today, said. They are begging for help. They finally understand what they lost. Looked at each person in the room. If we refuse, they die. If we help, we save people who treated us as servants. Not just them, General Han said. Billions of civilians who had nothing to do with council decisions. Children, families. President had known this moment was coming. She had hoped it would not, but she had prepared for it anyway. Call a vote, she said. Let humanity decide. The vote took 3 days. It was closer than anyone expected. Many humans wanted to let the council face consequences for their choices, but slightly more could not stand by while innocent people died. Humanity would answer the call, but not as servants returning to beg for their jobs, as professionals doing what they had always done, the hard work that needed doing. Received his commission as fleet commander. Earth's unified defense force began mobilization. They had 3 weeks before the Devourers reached the first inhabited system. 3 weeks to save a galaxy that had abandoned them. Fleet commander stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Unity. Behind him, 300 human warships prepared for departure. It was the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. It was also probably not enough. Tactician briefed the command staff on what they faced. The hologram showed the Devourer swarm advancing through space like a dark tide. Current estimates put their numbers at 40,000 bioships, said. Her voice was calm despite the horrifying numbers. Each ship is grown rather than built. Organic armor, biological weapons, limited individual intelligence but perfect coordination through the. Admiral Wu studied the display. What about council forces? They can field maybe 800 ships if their Civil War factions cooperate. They have 600. Other species combined might add another 1,000. Paused. Most of those ships cannot coordinate effectively. They use incompatible communication systems. So we are outnumbered 20-1, said General Han, and our allies cannot even talk to each other properly. Correct, he confirmed. The room fell quiet. Everyone understood the mathematics. This was not a battle they could win. We should turn back, Admiral Wu said bluntly. Let the council face their own mistakes. Why should humanity die for people who called us servants? Because billions of civilians did not make that choice, General Han countered. Children will die, Wu, families, innocent people. Human children matter too, Wu shot back. Human families. We risk our entire defense fleet for people who laughed at us. Let them argue. He understood both positions. He had spent days wrestling with the same question. Finally, he spoke. I was there when the council rejected us. I heard them laugh. I felt the humiliation. He looked at each officer in turn. But I also remember why we applied for membership in the first place. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. We believed different species could work together. They proved we were wrong, Wu said. They proved they were not ready, corrected. That does not mean the idea was wrong. We go because it is the right thing to do, not for the council, for everyone else. The vote among the officers was not unanimous, but it was enough. The fleet would deploy. Earth's ships jumped to hyperspace. The journey to council space took 5 days. They used that time to study everything known about the Devourers. Scientists had compiled reports from ancient records. The Devourers appeared every 3 to 5,000 years. They consumed planets for resources, then returned to dark space to hibernate. No one had ever successfully fought them. Species either evacuated or died. "What do they want?" asked Commander Myra, who led the Marine divisions. "Biomass," explained. "Minerals, water. They break down entire biospheres and absorb everything useful. Then they move to the next system." "Can they be negotiated with?" "No, they are with one purpose: consume and grow. There is no individual intelligence to negotiate with." Myra nodded grimly. "Then we kill them." The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Council territory. The first thing they saw was carnage. The home system was under attack. Devourer bioships swarmed around the crystalline habitats, tearing them apart piece by piece. Defense ships fought desperately, but they were designed for ceremonial purposes, not real war. "Get me a channel to their command," ordered. The commander appeared on screen, his crystalline face cracked from stress. "Humans, you came." "We came. Fall back to these coordinates. We will cover your evacuation." "But our home is already lost. Save your people. We will buy you time." The ships retreated. Human warships moved forward. "All ships weapons-free," commanded. "Target the larger bioships first. Pattern delta formation." The human fleet spread out in a complex pattern that had designed. It looked random but was carefully calculated. Each ship had overlapping fields of fire with its neighbors. When one ship needed to reload, others covered its position. The Devourers swarmed forward. They fought with no fear, no hesitation. They simply came in endless waves. Human tore through organic armor. Missiles found weak points that tactical team had identified in old records. For every bioship destroyed, 2 more appeared. "They are learning our patterns," reported, "adapting their tactics." "So we adapt faster," said. "Pattern Omega, implement now." The fleet shifted formation mid-battle. It was a maneuver they had practiced for weeks. Most species could not coordinate such rapid changes. Human crews could. The Devourers faltered for precious minutes as they adjusted. Those minutes allowed the last transports to escape. "All ships fighting retreat," ordered. "Fall back to Rally Point Alpha." The human fleet in good order, covering each other. They had saved maybe 60,000 civilians. They had lost 12 ships. It was only the first battle. Over the next 2 weeks, the same scene repeated across Council space. Human ships appeared where Devourer attacks were heaviest. They bought time for evacuations. They slowed the swarm's advance. Commander Myra led ground forces on 3 different worlds, holding defensive lines so civilians could reach transports. Her Marines trained mixed-species units in hours, combining shock troops with support weapons and scouts. Other species said it was impossible to coordinate such different combat styles. Humans proved them wrong. Engineer and her teams worked miracles, restoring communication networks across battlefronts. Dr. Sara's medical corps treated wounded from all species. They worked in converted cargo ships, performing surgery while under fire. The Council tried to coordinate a unified defense, but their command structure was chaos. Different species refused to take orders from each other. Old grudges interfered with tactical decisions. Found himself coordinating not just human forces but all Council military assets. No one had appointed him to this role. He simply started doing it, and everyone accepted his authority because they had no better option. Third Fleet moved to Sector 7. Siege platforms, prepare barrage on my mark. Scouts, I need eyes on the enemy's left flank. It worked, not perfectly, but better than anything the Council had managed in years. Still, they were losing. For every battle won, two were lost. The Devourers kept coming. Scientists made a discovery. I found their hive nexus. It is a massive central organism that coordinates the entire swarm. If we destroy it, the individual bioships lose cohesion. Where is it? Admiral Wu demanded. Highlighted a location deep within Devourer-controlled space. Here, protected by 10,000 bioships. Everyone understood what that meant, a suicide mission. Captain volunteered immediately. I will lead the strike force. You will need ships, Wu said, and crews willing to die. Within hours, 200 volunteers assembled. Half were human, the other half were council species, and others, people who understood the stakes. Met with before departure, you do not have to do this. Smiled, someone has to. Might as well be people who have already accepted their fate. The strike force launched toward the hive nexus. Behind them, the rest of the human fleet prepared for one final, desperate battle. Either succeeded or everyone died. There was no third option. Captain Strike Force pushed deeper into Devourer territory. 200 ships against 10,000. The mathematics were simple and brutal. All ships tight formation, commanded. Do not waste ammunition on small targets. We only need to reach the center. The bioships swarmed around them like insects. Organic weapons fired masses of corrosive material. Living armor regenerated faster than human weapons could destroy it. Ships shuddered as acid ate through the outer hull. Damage reports flooded in. He ignored them. Forward was the only direction that mattered. Sir, we have lost 40 ships, his tactical officer reported. Keep pushing. A cruiser exploded on his left. A platform lost power and drifted. The strike force kept moving. They broke through the outer defensive ring. Ahead, the hive nexus pulsed, a massive organism the size of a small moon. It was beautiful and horrifying, all organic curves and pulsing light. Target acquired, said. All ships full spread, everything we have. The remaining ships fired every weapon simultaneously. Nuclear warheads, kinetic rounds, energy beams, chemical explosives. The concentrated firepower of 160 ships hit the Nexus in one overwhelming moment. The Nexus tried to defend itself. Bioships swarmed to protect it, but they were too late. The massive organism began to die. It thrashed and convulsed. Its death scream echoed across subspace frequencies that human ships could barely detect. Watched his tactical display. Across the battlefield, Devourer bioships suddenly became erratic. The perfect coordination vanished. Individual ships started attacking each other or fleeing randomly. We did it, someone whispered. Now get out of here, ordered. Everyone jumped to hyperspace, now. 63 ships made it out, was not one of them. Fleet Commander watched the Devourer forces collapse into chaos. Without the hive nexus, they became mindless animals fighting on instinct. Council forces pushed forward. Human ships led the counterattack. It took 3 more weeks to clear Devourer bioships from inhabited systems. Some fled back to dark space. Others were destroyed. A few were captured for study. The war was over. The cost was staggering. Earth had lost 30% of its fleet. 140,000 personnel dead or missing, was gone. So were thousands of other heroes. But they had saved billions of civilians. They had held the line when no one else could. President traveled to the rebuilt council chambers for the first time in 3 years. The chamber looked different now. Smaller. Many species had lost their representative stations. Some species no longer existed. The counselor, a different one than before, spoke first. Humanity saved us. We offer full membership with a seat of honor in the High Council. We offer reparations for our past treatment. We offer. Raised her hand. The chamber went silent. We decline. Shock rippled through the room. Even standing beside looked surprised. You decline, the counselor stammered. We do not want membership, explained calmly. We do not want to be part of your government structure. We tried that. It did not work. Then what do you want? Asked a representative. Partnership, not membership. Partnership equals working together, not one species ruling others. Activated a hologram showing her proposal. Humans will return to council space. We will do what we have always done. We will maintain the infrastructure. We will staff the relay stations. We will patrol the borders. We will do the difficult, dangerous, unglamorous work. But as equals, added, paid fairly, treated with respect, and with the authority to make decisions about how we do our work. No more servants, continued. No more being invisible. We will be partners in keeping civilization running. Take it or leave it. The council delegates conferred among themselves. Some looked reluctant, others looked relieved, a few looked grateful. Finally the counselor spoke. We accept with one condition. What condition? That humans also participate in council defense planning. We need your tactical coordination, your ability to make different species work together. Considered this. Agreed, but we retain autonomy over human forces. We will advise, not command. Acceptable. The treaty was signed that day. Not a treaty of membership, but a treaty of partnership. Humans would be equals in a new system, not integrated into council hierarchy, but working alongside it. The celebration was muted. Too many had died, too much had been lost, but there was hope too, a different kind of future. Stood on the observation deck of the Unity, watching human ships spread out across council space. They were going back to the relay stations, the maintenance facilities, the border outposts, going back to work that most species never thought about. Commander joined him. Do you think it will last, this partnership? Thought about who died saving species that had called humans servants. He thought about the thousands of others who had done the same. Until they forget again, he said quietly. People forget easily. They will take us for granted again someday. And then we remind them. Humans have long memories. We will make sure the lesson sticks this time. Below, a human engineering crew boarded a damaged station to begin repairs. Nearby, a mixed-species medical team, led by Dr. Sara, set up a clinic for refugees. At the border, human peacekeepers reopened neutral monitoring stations. Across the galaxy, human ships returned to the dark regions, not to patrol anymore, but to explore, to map, to understand. Because that was what humans did. They went to the places others feared. And in doing so, they would keep the barrier strong, keep the devourers at bay, keep civilization safe. Not because anyone ordered them to, not because they wanted glory or recognition, but because it was necessary work and someone had to do it. The galaxy would never fully understand what humans did for them. Most species would never think about the relay stations in deep space, the maintenance crews working in dangerous conditions, the scouts mapping hostile territory. But humanity would know, and that was enough. Commander Myra sent a message from a world where she was training new peacekeeping forces. It feels good to be back, even if they still do not fully understand what we do. Engineer reported from a station where she was teaching their engineers to think more flexibly. They are learning, slowly. Maybe in a few generations they will not need us anymore. Smiled at that, maybe, but he doubted it. The galaxy was a big place, complex and chaotic and full of problems no one anticipated. It needed people who could adapt, who could improvise, who could bridge the gaps between different ways of thinking. It needed humans. And now, finally, the galaxy knew it. Turned from the observation window. Come on, we have work to do. They walked toward the bridge together. Behind them, stars stretched across the darkness, billions of them, each one a sun with worlds that needed maintaining, protecting, connecting. Somewhere out there, the Devourers waited in dark space. Someday they would try again, and when they did, humans would be ready. Not as servants of the Galactic Council, not as members seeking approval, but as partners doing what they had always done best. The hard work that kept civilization alive. The unglamorous labor that no one else wanted to do. The bridges that held a galaxy together. And this time, everyone would remember why that mattered.